Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild, aka Mono Bluetron here, back with another episode of 10-minute testing. So, I have this weird week in my life right now where I have to constantly be on call for my job, but at the same time I am not actively at my job, so I end up with a bunch of random free time at weird hours, and I figured I'd use this free time in order to revisit what I consider to be some of my less successful videos. Far and away the least successful of my videos is unfortunately the one that has received one of the most views, that is Super Ancient Deepsea King Colecanth OTK. I think that the way I went about making that video and creating the deck was a little flawed, and I could do better. So I figured I'd use this episode of 10-minute testing to provide you with an updated list that I think is more competitive, has a better backup plan, and all in all is just like much more functional than the previous deck. So let's jump into deck edit and see how it goes. So, for those of you who watched the previous video, pretty much right off the bat, you can tell that this is a different style of deck than the previous one. The previous one was playing the Frog engine, which we have cut entirely. That's because, while the backup plan of making Tree Toads was kinda cute, it turns out it's not particularly good in a world where decks like Hero Tree Toad and Water Tree Toad already exist, and people have to pack main board answers to this card anyway. Instead, I've opted to play the Metalfoes, which allows to Pendulum summon Super Ancient Deepsea King Colecanth. Metalfoes are good cards, and they play well with each other, and in a world where we just brick into multiple Metalfoes guys, we're probably still fine. For those of you who don't know the Ancient Deepsea King Colecanth combo, it involves discarding a card, then special summoning 2 Royal Swamp Eel, 1 4-star Water Monster, and an Oystermeister in order to go into either Mistworm and Scrap Archfiend or Gungnir and Trishula. Those are both 8,000 points of damage exactly, and you go into whichever one removes the most cards out of your opponent's side of the field, so you don't have to deal with back row or monster effects. The two ways you get out the Colecanth is either by Pendulum summoning, which is new to this version of the deck, or the previous version of the deck's old combo, which was Gold Sark into DDR. I'll explain this a little more later, but I like the inclusion of the Gold Sark DDR package because Gold Sark is occasionally good on its own with cards like Metalfoes, which gum up the board state, make the game drag out as long as possible, and eventually the Colecanth may just be added to your hand naturally, and then because you're playing Metalfoes, you're in a position to Pendulum summon him. The Quakings also ensure this happens. So, without further ado, let's jump into the games, see if this is any better than the previous one, and if we can pick up some free wins. So, I hate to start out with a big old butt bungler. We're playing against Dark Magicians, and it looks like he's bricked here. He's got 1 copy of Magician's Robe, as well as a Dark Magician of Chaos. I don't know about that one. He's probably playing Dedication in here somewhere. Oh my god, Miracle Synchro Fusion. This is a little suspect of a list, I think. We've opened pretty poorly, but 1 more copy of a Metalfoes, and we can play Metalfoes, and 1 copy of Gold Sark, and we just win. He's going to start by just setting this Magician's Robe. We draw this Gold Sark, and I'm like, alright, let's go. Send Colecanth, DDR it back. We're going to get the materials to make Scrap Archfiend and Trish, because he only has 1 card set. I figure we might as well Trish. There's no reason not to. We hit this Magician's Robe, and also the Demock, and suddenly the replay ends. He has decided that that is enough for him. Alright, so that was a pretty good hand, actually. This is what a less good one looks like. We've opened double different dimension reincarnation, but we have 2 Metalfoes, so we can sort of just play the Metalfoes game for as long as we need to. Our opponent is on what looks like Brilliant Fusion Fluffles, which is not a deck that I, have a lot of experience against. He's just going through the motions to get Toy Vendor out, make sure he's activating Toy Vendor, fuse into whatever he wants, basically. And he decides to go into Fright for Kraken, which is a card I've literally never seen. So I'm like, well, if I could just draw a Colecanth, I'd just win. But of course that won't happen. We'll just set this combination and end our turn. We want to make sure we always have the ability to make Colecanth if we need to. He has another Toy Vendor, and he's going to attack with Fluffledog. I'm like, I don't recall Fluffles allowing me this much time to set up, but I'm not complaining. We're going to start with the combination to get a counter, then we're going to activate our other Metalfoes card and set a 3rd card. I mean, setting 4 cards is pretty good, but we know what they are. We do get to actually Pendulum summon this Volflame, but because space in the extra is so tight, we don't have any like rank 7s, so there's no feasible way in which you could engineer a scenario where that's good. We've also drawn our 3rd copy of Different Dimension Reincarnation. That's shit. He gets to go into Tiger this turn, which I realize means we're probably dead. He's also playing Fright for Octopus, and I'm like, oh god, I know what that means. I'm going to see a very large Fright Fur that can attack 10,000 times. So Tiger fires off for 3, destroys all of my creatures. He gets Diffusion like 15 cards away for this enormous wolf and destroys my Orhulk. I'm like, okay, I'll destroy the wolf, but he still has lethal, and we lose anyway. It doesn't look like we were in any condition to be winning in the near future unless we drew into a Colecanth or a gold sarcophagus, but, you know, it is what it is. So, match 3, we're up against Synchro Zombies. It looks like our opponent is making some interesting choices, including a Dragon's Mirror, a Book of Life, and a 13-card extra deck. The excitement of YGO Pro, ladies and gentlemen. We've opened kinda shit. Thankfully, we have the Colecanth, which is step 1, and we have 2 scales, and because Metalfoes is a fair deck, we'll be able to get the 8th scale if we just wait a turn, and we have the Quaking to hopefully ensure that happens. So he's going to go first, set this Young Money, Cash Money, Mizuki. We're going to take our own turn 1 and use the Gold Driver to kill the Gold Driver to set the combination that will get us the 8th rank next turn, and then hopefully we'll be able to, you know, go to the races. He makes Utopia the Lightning, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I can just take 2,500. I'm not, you know. Utopia the Lightning isn't particularly scary. And what do you know? I draw the rank 8. Not really necessary. I'm going to use Gold Driver to blow it up anyway and get another rank 8. Then I'm going to Pendulum summon exclusively Colecanth. Funny to mention, in a previous game, I accidentally summoned a Colecanth and a Gold Driver, and it turns out that completely messes up the combo. So didn't make that mistake this time. We're going to go into Scrap Archfiend. We're also going to go into Mistworm, return these to the hand, and then beat in for a fatty 8,000 points of damage. Wham, wham, and wham. So we're back with the deck. I'd like to start out by saying this is certainly a better version of the deck than we were playing last time. It felt like the backup plan was not as much all in. It was actually powerful. It can create big monsters like Orhulk that are pretty good on their own. I liked playing just Metalfoes sometimes. I didn't really show the games on screen because they were like incredibly long and incredibly boring and grindy, as any Metalfoes player can tell you. But it felt like these ensured that even in a world where I didn't draw Colecanth, I was in a winning position if I ever did top deck him, and occasionally I would just win regardless. I certainly think that there are some changes to be made for this deck, but before I discuss them, I'd like to address a criticism I'm sure will show up in the comments below, which is, where is the Mausoleum of the Emperor? I don't think Mausoleum of the Emperor is the right card for this deck. I know all those replay channels show tons of Colecanth Mausoleum OTKs, and I'm just here to discuss why I don't think that's the, most effective way to be going out getting Colecanth out. The reason is because even though you can tutor Mausoleum with things like terraforming, you can't tutor Colecanth, and Mausoleum sucks dongo dick if you don't have a Colecanth in your hand, right? If you can't summon him, you're not really getting any benefit off of Mausoleum, except maybe paying 2,000 life points to summon a Volflame, which seems really bad. The rest of the engines that I'm playing are designed to be okay in a world where you don't have a Colecanth or the other half of the combo in your hand, right? Like the Metalfoes are still good even if you can't draw into Colecanth, and they're really good if you do draw into Colecanth. The Gold Sark DDR package is probably a little more suspect because DDR isn't particularly good on its own. It does function as like prevention of banish-oriented removal, which is not really a giant plus, but you also get to play 3 Gold Sark, which I think is way, way better. Gold Sark is good even if you don't have DDR because the Metalfoes in your hand ensure the game is going to get gummy enough that it'll just add this thing to your hand naturally in most cases. Moving forward, I think there are some changes to the deck that could be made. We probably don't need to be playing 3 Metalfoes Shark and 3 Double Fin Shark. Probably 2 and 2 is enough, which would free up some extra space for maybe some draw spells or something. Previously, we were playing so many because we were playing cards like Moray of Greed, but since those got cut, I think these can be 2. You only really need the bare minimum. The Mirror Force was really bad. The Quaking Mirror Force I thought was going to be way better, but it turns out it isn't. I think most of the time I'd just rather be playing Wabaku. There's a lot of those Armades effects in the format right now, and I would like to avoid them. More importantly, Wabaku can engineer a scenario where you, like, set a guy and they attack and you flip Waboku, and then you set another guy and they attack and you flip Waboku, and it gets through things like Regekis too. Then you can sack them both for Colecanth. That happened in one of the games off stream that I was playing, and had it been Waboku over Quaking, I would have won. It was pretty frustrating, but as good of a card as Quaking is, I think the set 5 cards that you envision when you put this card in your deck is just not going to happen anytime soon. As far as the extra deck goes, I think we can probably take out Lightning and Utopia and replace them with rank 7s. The times when you need to go in on Metalfoes, you really need those rank 7s in order to be able to compete. Probably a Big Eye and a Flare Metal Dragon would be what I would recommend. But aside from that, I think this deck actually is pretty innately powerful. I'd like to see if it ever becomes, you know, a player. I don't think it will until interaction on your opponent's turn and spell speed 2 effects sort of phase out of the meta. But for now, it is certainly fun. It is certainly punishing for players who don't interact with their opponent, and I'll certainly be sleeving it up and taking it to locals very soon. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed an atonement for my sins. I hope you enjoyed a long, rambling, inconclusive rant as to why I hate field spells, and most of all, I hope you just enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give me a like, a comment, or a subscribe. It really helps me out, and if you want to see me play the decks we make here on stream, I stream every Tuesday and Thursday on Twitch TV/MonoBlueTron from 9:30 a.m. EST to noon for early morning Yu-Gi-Oh! There are full streams of that on my channel if you want to check out what you are getting yourself into. Finally, if you want to see a certain deck or archetype played on a future episode of this show, let me know in the comments below and I will do my best to accommodate you. Otherwise, I will see you on Friday.